Forward quickly. So I will open the meeting. I have 6:01. And the first order of business is reorganization tonight, since we've had an election. So I get to ask, are there any nominations, or there should be, nominations for chair?
I will nominate Tui for chair. The second.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, I will close. All in favor of Kristen Tui for chair? It looks unanimous, and now it's Kristen.
Thank you.
We will need to go through vice chair, secretary, and task will rep, and our Unit 61 voters. And I'll take the notes.
All right. So for vice chair, I would like to nominate Sam Kinsey.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Next up is secretary.
Yep.
I will nominate.
Tough job. Jenna Ventulo.
Just ride on Karen's coattails on that one.
Get to take all the credit.
Great.
So you nominated?
I sure did.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor of Jenna for secretary?
That's the easy one.
Thank you. What's next?
Tantasco rep.
Can you just elaborate on what that person does?
So the Tantasco rep attends the Tantasco meetings. They meet once a month, the full meeting, and then they have a number of subcommittees. So depending on what subcommittees each member gets put on varies what their meetings are at that point in time. I mean, I don't think there's any committees that meet every month. There are some that are heavier during budget season. There's building physical plan, depending on what's going on with the building. So it's once a month. I would ballpark, might be twice a month, depending on what's going on.
I think it's the third
It is the third
Tuesday, right?
Tuesday, except during vacation weeks, then we bump it to the following Wednesday. Any other nominations? Did we even get a second?
Oh, I'll second it.
Okay, then I'm going to get one nominated, you're still in charge of saying all in favor.
All in favor?
And then, so the Union 61 rep situation is usually twice a year. During COVID, it was more than twice a year, but we're hoping to go back to just twice a year, that all school committee members get together. There are 34 of you. And we get together twice a year to set the budget for central office and do the superintendent's evaluation and goals. And any other, there might be a few things that are really district-wide, obviously, in COVID world it was. It's just twice a year, you all get together. You are all encouraged to come and participate in the conversation, but when it comes to voting on any particular items, only 3 members actually vote to represent Burgess, and that is because one of our 5 elementary schools are only a 3-member committee. So to be fair and comparable and make sure all 5 towns have the same voice with their Union 61 vote, we have 3 from each of the committees of 5 that actually are voters. So you can do one full swoop, you can say who wants to be, who would be, sure that they're attending those 2. But what we've also done the last couple of years is vote the main 3 and then vote an alternate 1 and 2. So if any of the 3 aren't there, you're covered still with 3 votes.
And as chair or Tantasco rep, is that an automatic for
Well,
any
it's
of those? or just
interesting,
traditionally?
yeah, traditionally it has been, it's kind of a little bit interesting because traditionally it has been the chair, but when the Tantasco rep wasn't the chair, that person kind of pulled out and said, I've already at least got a vote. I'm already representing Sturbridge somehow, so 3 others did, so there's really no rhyme or reason.
So we get 3 spots.
Yeah,
Okay. So does anyone have, want to express interest in being the Union 61 rep?
I do.
3, so.
Okay. No, and you as the chair can just say, you know, by unanimous consent, we're going with Sam, Lisa, and Jackie. And then alternate 1 is Jenna, and then Kristen. That will do it for tonight. You don't have any negotiations this year left. They're all done, so you're good. Your next thing, Kristen, I think formally, at least for the records, and Karen's pretty good at documenting, you'll want to open the school choice public hearing, just in case there is anyone here that wants to speak to school choice.
Okay. So I will open the floor for the school choice decision. We do this every year. And if we don't, we are automatically by default a school of school choice.
Correct. So during the regular business, we'll follow up and take a vote not to, if you all agree you do not want to.
Okay.
This was the opportunity if anybody wanted to come and try and advocate for. We are not recommending that we become a school choice. Okay. If there are no questions or comments, you can close your hearing.
Okay. So I'll make a motion and then ask for discussion and then take a vote. Is that right?
Well, the vote will be in regular session, so the
Okay.
hearing is just to hear, are there any other
Okay.
questions, comments, concerns around school choice?
Okay, so we've had the recommendation from the superintendent and from Principal Kelly that we would not recommend being a school of school choice. Is there any discussion or to comment otherwise or advocate otherwise? None? Then we will close the discussion.
And go back into regular session, and then you can either now take a vote, or we can do it under new business. Either way.
All right, let's, well, keep it fresh, if you don't mind, we'll take the vote now. I'll make the motion that Burgess Elementary remain a non-school choice school.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Awesome. And I clearly don't run the meetings often
Because we didn't
and
do the
failed
pledge.
miserably. I am so sorry, we
Yeah.
did not do the pledge.
I
We
had
really
to
should have done
interject
that.
so, all right, so we are completely out of order.
Yep.
Thank you, Karen, for keeping track of all this, and let's do the pledge of allegiance, everyone, thank you. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, back in order, we have the approval of the minutes from our last regular session, April 7th. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Any discussion or edits on the minutes? And we're going to have 2 abstentions because we have, we welcome our new members, Jackie, I'm going to put your name. Caitlin. Okay. And Lisa Munoz, familiar face on the other side of the table. So welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Okay, so no discussion, then all in favor of approving the minutes? And abstentions, 2. We also need to approve the minutes from the executive session. So I'll make the motion to approve the minutes from the executive session on April 7th. Second. Any discussion? It's very brief. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, next up is the financial report.
And I am going to cover Steve tonight. Edit the beginning.
Back in your old jobs.
Exactly. I think this year, I mean, we're gonna end fine this year. We're winding down here. I have totally lost track of time, but where are we? We're May. Was it the April meeting? Did I fly out of here and go see the finance committee?
Yes.
Yeah. So that all went great, you know, I chatted with them for quite a while. they did, while I was there, vote to approve what we had asked for and what Tantasco had asked for. I did serve them up information that I cannot recall if I told you folks. We've already got some concerns in out-of-district tuitions, so good, I'm glad I see nods, that's at least new. So I serve that up to them, so that they at least know. And it's really only been once, maybe twice in my 20 years that we needed to go back and say, we might not get through the end of the year because so much has changed in that area. They were certainly understanding, we'll see where we are in September and October. I do have, we've been talking regularly about plans on how to mitigate that or cover that, one of which is whatever we have, for whatever funds we have left at the end of this year, we can legally prepay the first quarter of out-of-district special ed tuition. So that's what we're going to be looking to do, is try and get a little ahead of the game with whatever funds we have left at the end of this year. And we'll be probably in the position to do that. I don't know for sure how much yet, but that's what we'll end up doing, and it'll help cover some of the shortfall next year.
So what's the benefit of paying that? Is it
Well,
Using money from this year, the balance from this year.
right.
Because we were anticipating.
Okay, so you're just cushioning.
Yeah, we've got, don't lose breath, but there was a moment when we looked like we could be up to $400,000 short in out-of-district tuitions. And it ebbs and flows so much. One, someone else might be coming back in.
You'll remember the situation a number of years ago now. We had a similar situation that
Yeah.
occurred.
Special meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it doesn't happen often
Yeah.
because, we build programs to support the
Right.
students because our belief is all of the Sturbridge
Keep them
children
in district.
belong here.
Yeah.
But we've had a couple of situations here at Burgess where it was in everyone's best interest for a child to go elsewhere. And then the junior and senior high, as you'll remember, we actually, the Sturbridge budget covers children in out-of-district placements from the ages of 2 years, 9 months through 22. So that's just because of the unique composition of Union 61. Wales cannot cover the cost of that, so it has to get separated out that way. So there were, I think, 3 situations between the junior and senior high with children who have needed out-of-district placements.
Yeah.
I had a question, because I know one of the inflection points in the budget was the transportation in
Yep.
particular. Do those that are getting that special transportation, those singletons going in one far distances, are they year-round in programs so that it goes through the summer as well?
Often.
Is that- yeah.
Some, yes,
Figured that.
exactly.
Not encumbrances,
Yeah.
like, it's not like we're going to get 3 months of a
Right.
break. It's
Probably not for those, but it does lighten up for some of the others.
Yep.
That is another area that we're watching. We're definitely going to blow that line out. Between the added placements and the gas is just crazy. So that line may very well determine how much we have left to do other things. So if we've got some other money left, I will be looking to prepay and try and kind of whittle down that 400,000. The good news is if worst case came and we had this 400,000, the way circuit breaker works is it's a reimbursement. So we're front loading, we're paying next year, but the year after, our circuit breaker reimbursement will be higher. So when we're building next year's budget, it hopefully will not be as bad as we're sitting here trying to get through for next year, because we'll have a little more state money reimbursement coming in a perfect world.
literally replenish everything you use.
Correct, they reimburse the.
So in good times, it's use or lose it.
Exactly.
And in bad times,
Exactly.
it'll come back.
Right, and there's a revolving fund, you can leave money in that revolving fund, so that is going to be, so Plan A is to prepay some tuitions. Plan B is to spend down some of the circuit breaker that's been there for those years that, if someone ages out, we still have money for a year. 3 is going to be another thing I actually was going to put under superintendent's report, but we'll just do it all. Sturbridge is getting one more grant. The state calls it their pothole fund. What DESE did with their pothole funded money this year is look at, if you remember last year, we were all kind of cranky because they calculated Chapter 70 on real enrollment in a year when we had
Right.
homeschool
Right.
and no kindergartners, and we were kind of angry and said, that's just bogus, they're coming back. So they recognize that with excess, with kind of their slush funds, so to speak, they said, what kinds of things can we do with this money? And they did a calculation to give some of that pothole funds to the communities that had, I don't have the details on the calculation, but it was about a 10% swing. If when they did their calculations, there was a 10% back in from last year. So 2 of our 6 districts got money. Sturbridge is getting $107,000, to which I immediately say, okay, it's May 1st. What am I going to do with that between now and June 30th? They're letting it roll over. So it's one-time money, but we're going to let it sit there, and I would say that is our third attack to try and knock down those tuitions. So heads up, it's coming, it'll sit there, we'll pay the tuition. So we're every single day counting on, okay, wait a minute, we're getting it down, we're getting it down.
Don't we have that rural grant money left too?
The rural aid, what's going to happen with rural aid this year is it's going to cover the transportation, not cover, we're going to put it to transportation, because that line's already significantly short. So the next bill we get, we're just going to use the rural aid. I don't have any answers on next year, if there's a little bit of rural aid coming. If so, that would be helpful, because we don't budget, we don't plan on it.
And we don't typically get that.
Right, this is the first time we ever did, so I don't know yet what those calculations will be. So we're going to get through. The goal is to try and hopefully have a little bit that will help cover some of our problem next year. I'll keep you posted. The only other thing that we did want to go through, because I gave you the wrong report last month, now we have the right report on the plan for ESSER 3 spending, with the reminder that ESSER 3 pool of dollars has a 2-year life. It goes on until September 24. So we sit here with a proposal, with a plan to spend in general these things over the next 2 years. We'll do it both years, but we'll have conversations during budgets as to whether we should move something into the budget to get off the cliff. So, first and foremost is, and I know the L coordinator, it's really a little extra support. We did put the English learner teacher in the budget. We've since then received, we had another tier focus monitoring review. I reported a month or 2 ago, all the special ed great stuff. The English learner report had a couple of areas that we definitely need to make sure. A lot of it is bookkeeping, because they're new, the population is new to us, and a little bit of it. So we did leave $20,000 there for potential extra support. We did this year, and we'll continue next year, to pay $60,000 for an adjustment counselor / special ed, exactly. And the team chair. Those are both things we did with ESSER 1. We'll do it again ESSER 2. Then we're probably going to have some hard conversations when we're building the next budget to see what do we think the needs are going to be. Should we try to get one of these into the budget if we think it's going to be an ongoing problem? Behavioral and social tech assistants, RBTs. We thought across the district this would be great to get. RBTs are certified working with behavioral and social issues in students, and they're a higher order paraprofessional. They're not quite a teacher. It's not quite a BCBA, and
Work directly under the BCBA. So BCBA is a board-certified behavioral analyst who actually takes data on children in the area of behavior, proposes plans to help, again, to help children be successful in our environment here. The RBT sort of takes that, implements it, and then supports what we call our ABA assistants that are working with specific types of programming for children. And so it's a tier. We do have some RBT support as it is right now. The thought was to add another one to just support the work and continue hopes that we'll be able to maintain children in our environment.
it's a way to give a little more support without bringing on a professional staff BCBA. I bet at least 4 out of 6 of our districts are hoping to find an RBT. Found out after the brainchild, it's not so easy to find them. So
Is this a full-time?
yes, it would be a school year, it would be full-time. So
That's their full salary?
yes, so which is why it's a paraprofessional, it's a support staff member as opposed to a full certified teacher.
And that's a competitive pay?
Yeah,
It's what your current one's getting. So, and if we have to squeeze some of this up or down, we will, if we can find them. Turns out they're not actually as readily available out there as we hoped they were. So exactly. The other thing we're thinking of is actually kind of looking within our paraprofessional group to see if there are any that might be interested and we could fund them going through their training. So we'll leave those dollars and keep you posted on what we can do and hopefully get a little more behavioral support. Then we did put $22,000 there for curriculum supplies. Was it in math or ELA for this school? Each school had a little bit of a different hope and need. And then the rest, as we've done in the past, will be for technology. Any of these three things, we're still working through your smart board replacements and adding Chromebooks and the Wi-Fi access ones will need to be replaced. I think we've done a little bit.
I mean, it's probably more in the smart board and Wi-Fi access.
Yeah.
than it is in the hard
Because you're in good Chromebook shape. So, and again, the good news on those last two is we're not building any cliffs. We do it for a couple of years and then the year after, it's either in our regular budget or we're actually should be in really good shape for technology for a few years after. But we will wait to do that until we are sure that we've started school and everything's going and all of our salary and our support labor is in place and that plan is working out before we'll spend technology. So we wanted to update you. This is very similar to what we did for ESSER 2, so there's just a little bit of tweaking, and so I'm happy that when we look at the end of ESSER 2, we actually were able to kind of stick to the plan. So at this point in time, we in general are planning to do the same thing for 2 more years, and we should be good to go.
And so for this coming year, it's the 285,633?
Correct.
Okay.
Exactly, that's exactly what we did, knowing, and really it's a little bit more, because you get, the fiscal 24 will end June 30th.
Right.
The money is there until September 24th. So even if over the summer after fiscal 24, we've got a little bit left to spend down, we're in good shape. Yep.
That L coordinator support, is that a yearly salary?
Yes, but it's a part-time position. It's as needed and is what we would project. So, you know, there are times during the year that we need additional, more the paperwork support, okay, in the assessing of students. So there are times where we have to administer the access testing. So that would be a time that we would have that, but it's.
We don't know yet what that will be, because there is another full-time teacher that was hired for the other 4 elementary schools. Those numbers are very small. So we may use these funds to help pay for that and take a piece of that person who is a very, very experienced, highly qualified in the area, which would be nice. If Burgess doesn't need that, but needs something else more in just someone to be doing sort of the bookkeeping end, we can have a stipend to do that. So we'll kind of see where we are in September with the population in general. Yeah.
Thank you. One question about the budget, sorry. Where is the special ed transportation overage? Where is that found in the budget?
So if you look at the document here, do you mean found to cover, or what line is it?
Like what line is it?
There you go.
Yeah.
So when you look at the boring number pages,
Yep.
it is toward the bottom of page 2. The very bottom there is all transportation, regular rate, and then there's a line of special ed transportation that right now, showing that minus 58,000. I think it's going to be a little more than that, because I don't think the third quarter payment has been paid yet. And I think I've mentioned before, we are having problems in our everyone is having transportation problems with keeping drivers, both our regular and special ed. It has been tough. We definitely need more. We've got signs going on lawns pretty soon looking for people to come in. We will train, so we do need more bus drivers, and so you've got the problem, while we need more, which we know nationally, that is a group that we all got hit on. We need more drivers, and you've got more placements all of a sudden. So we're in a little bit of a pinch. We have contracted out for a couple of your latest placements with one of the outside vendors. which costs us more than if we were able to do it inside, so where transportation's been a heavy lift this year.
Any more discussions on finances?
And that's it for finance right now.
Moving on to communications. Seeing
No,
any
no,
topics?
no, no electronic or in writing.
Righty, then.
Quiet month.
We will move on to Kelly with the principal
I don't
report.
know if you all have, it wasn't in the packet.
We got it.
Hello, everyone. So enrollment is actually steadily building. As you can see, I believe we've had 3 students start since May 1st, so we're at 870. Another reason, when we have the conversations about school choice, I believe that our numbers are going to be, up there. Kindergarten, I'll get to that in a minute. Kindergarten screening occurred. We actually had 103 students, which is a large number for this point of the year. So we're anticipating a very, a more typical Burgess enrollment for the fall. Just want to, I know I recognize them verbally, but want to recognize David Berthel and Bethany Wolfing for hosting the annual talent show. Curriculum instruction and assessment, we have MPress coming up. Math will be next Tuesday and Wednesday, followed by science for grade 5 the following Tuesday and Wednesday. Professional development, Friday the 13th is a professional development early release day. Staff will be working primarily on the preliminary steps for student placement for the 22-23 school year. We have quite a robust process. They participated in we work through that. Kindergarten screening I mentioned. Upcoming events, we do have the Burgess Band Spring Concert will be held on Thursday the 9th, and the Burgess Advanced Band will participate in the Great East Music Festival on the 10th. School Improvement Council will be meeting next Monday, and the focus for the meeting is actually on a school improvement plan that we will have to present to you next month. I will direct your attention, obviously, to our grade department and grade level updates, lots going on. And then, again, the last 2 pages are primarily the bullet points of what we will be excitedly doing in the month of May. There's a lot going on, and just lots of typical Burgess activity feels good.
Thank you. Firstly, thank you for the second portion of lunch offering. Someone in my house was happy about that. And then, while I have the floor, I also have a question. And since Mrs. Munier is now on staff here in the board, I can ask, I'm curious about the scoliosis screening. Is that a state mandate or? It is. It is state mandated. Saying that, but okay. Thank you. Any other discussions on the principal's report? Great. Wrapping up towards the end of the year here. It's getting exciting, especially for the 6th graders. All this stuff
Exactly,
coming
to
up.
have real things to be planned.
Exactly,
Yep.
yep.
We forgot how insane the year end was.
You miss the
Ooh.
insanity, don't you?
Yeah, not at all.
Speaking of insanity, Mrs. Boyd, superintendent's report. What do you have?
Yeah,
for
we've
us?
covered a couple. I wanted to make sure I told you about the enrollment grant, talk about the PD that's happening. So the only other things are just the reminders of the next 2 meetings, the joint meeting. Well, we just voted your 3
Right.
Union
So-
61 folks. There is a meeting on Monday, the 23rd, at the junior high in the library at 6 o'clock.
Yep.
And then our June meeting, for those who aren't aware, will not be the first Thursday, will be the Monday of the town meeting, which we've done traditionally. We just have it up at the high school in the cafeteria. We will meet our regular school business, and then you're all able to go to the town meeting and not be out twice within a week. That's it.
One question on that. Are we expected to participate formally in town meeting, or is it just?
With any luck, no. And I will, actually, I was going to say absolutely no, because we know Finance Committee has already recommended. Occasionally, there are questions. You will not have to participate. I will have my binders. It gives me the exercise to
I'll sit
bring
next
them.
to you if you want.
And then it's 9.5 out of 10 times, I bring information to have, and there's never a question asked.
I remember once.
Yeah, knowing, what I always make sure is that I have the warrant before the meeting, because if I see that our asks are recommended by the Finance Committee and the Selectmen, we know there's likely not to be any questions and it'll be supported. We do have the trailer article that's on, which again, I am going to be prepared and happy to answer. I assume there would be questions because most articles have some kind of questions, so that is me, that is the to purchase a trailer, a permanent trailer for the transportation department down at the DPW. But regular budget, I don't think will be a problem. I have had my head in the sand a little bit this year, so I don't know what other hot topics are happening in Sturbridge. I do need to study up on that as a resident myself, but so depending on what else is going on, usually determines how much of the budget is going to get.
Okay.
But you're good.
Okay.
So let's stir up an issue.
You're right, exactly. That's the old, anytime someone else is in the middle. Sorry for our neighbors.
Okay, anything else for Mrs. Boyd? No? Okay, we're on to public access. Anyone have anything they'd like to? Yes, would you like to?
Yeah, well, I'm
Please
just
state
stating
your
right,
name.
you
Yep.
don't know me, this is my first time attending a meeting. I'm just here, is the para contract, has that been approved?
It is here under new business for them to vote.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? All right, moving on. I believe we have any subcommittee reports?
We don't, because there were no meetings in the last month. We're just wrapping things up with the vote.
Right, and looking forward to the next time, I might have something to say about
I know, I'm
tax
trying to quickly
representative,
just
but-
remind myself when we last met. It was an off-cycle meeting. Actually, it's weird because as I was sitting there, it kind of didn't occur to me that you have a meeting every year that you don't, well, especially because Mary left, we had a meeting and didn't have all Sturbridge representatives. Because we had
Yeah,
Billy,
really good, yeah.
So Tantascwa met on Wednesday, the 27th. I think it was a pretty short meeting. We reviewed there also plans for SO3 spending, starting to talk about year-end plans and the prom at for Tantascwa is next
Heavy
week.
topics, okay.
And that's the biggie, exactly. It's all getting back, so there really wasn't anything significant
Okay.
going on, so we'll get that.
Great.
Yep.
Alrighty, then we're on to unfinished business. So last meeting, we rattled through a number of policy updates, amendments, etc. And we are going to rattle through those again. I think what we'll do, so I'll make the motions and I'll group them. And then we'll open it up for discussion and take votes on the groups. Does that work?
Yeah, I'm reminding myself, I think that's what, although I'm looking at, so the new business, well, you took them all in one fell swoop, Kristen, so it's up to you. Your motion, oh no, I see down
I
there.
think there were three.
I see, got it. I'm looking at the minutes last under the
Yeah.
first and suggesting we do the same
Yeah.
thing this one. So you definitely had your first reading for IHAM 1 by itself, so your motion would be for the second reading and adoption of that policy. And then we did a bunch together.
So that was a adoption. The last ones were and then all are rescind. So it's.
Yeah. So, because the very first one is a brand new policy for you. So that was voted separate, then the whole bunch that were just amendments,
Okay.
and then the rescinds.
Okay. So let's start off with, I will make a motion to approve upon second reading and adopt IHAM-1.
Second.
Any discussion on policy IHAM-1? None. All in favor of adopting IHAM-1?
We're supposed to abstain.
Actually, yeah, I think if they weren't here for the first one, it's probably our best to abstain.
Okay, so 3 yeses, 2 abstentions. Okay. The next batch, it looks like we're going to be able to take the next 1, 2, 3, 4 together. Okay. So I'll make the motion to amend upon second reading and adopt policy HB, IJ, IKAB, and policy IKE.
Second.
Any discussion on any of those policies? All in favor? Okay, next batch. I'll make a motion to rescind upon second reading and adoption, rescinding it, of policy IJNDA, policy JA, policy JA-E. And this last one says ratification, so that's a change, that's not.
That's a separate
Yeah,
thing.
that's a separate one.
The very
Okay.
last thing, that's the vote there.
Okay, so that was
That's
one,
definitely
two, the three that we just, okay.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just a question for clarification. Why are student JA and JAE being rescinded? Is there something replacing them? Or is it?
Yeah, let me pull back here. So the process typically, Jackie, is Tantascwa has a pretty hardy, vigorous bylaws subcommittee that has been going through all of these, and they go through Tantascwa. And if they've been voted and gone through 2 rounds of Tantascwa, then we've kind of been taking their suggestions and sharing them with you guys. So that's where they come out of that. They've been through a couple of reviews before they come here. And what's typically happening here, say the student policies and student policy development, they're either these are probably references to things that are in your handbook and really don't need to be policy. So we really try to, as part of the process, we will contact Mass Association of School Committee and ask for their latest versions. And in some cases, they don't have them, and we're like, okay, then why do we? And we're trying to clean this all up.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other discussion on those? None. I don't know if we got a second on the motion. Okay, sorry. All right, all in favor of rescinding those policies? And the last one, I'll make the motion to ratify.
Yes, to ratify the memorandum of understanding for your,
Ratification, policy ESP.
that's not the policy, that is your ESP unit. So your education support unit. We're asking for a motion to.
Oh, this is the thing.
Yes, there you
Okay,
go.
this is that.
So it's the modified ratification for the fiscal 23 to 25 contract.
Okay.
That's what we're looking for, which we did present, and I apologize. I'm making a note to make sure, Jackie, that you get it. I'll email it to you because I failed to bring copies. It was in last month's packet. We reviewed it in executive session. Assuming there are no questions, we're ready to vote. You should probably abstain, but I will get you a copy of it. Lisa would abstain anyway because it's a staffing contract.
Okay, so making the motion, making the motion to approve the MOU ratification that we reviewed at last meeting, para staff contract. Okay, all in favor?
There you go. Spread the word.
There you go. Okay, moving on to new business.
Then you did really truly bring me home. We've just got a few things here. Again, this is somewhat in a housekeeping and cleaning things up. We do just a little more information, Jackie. Every now and then something comes up that we all say, we need to look at the policy, we need to update it, or we need to build a new one. Or Mass Association of School Committees will say, you should change this. That's kind of the norm. I bet probably 2 years ago, the bylaw subcommittee started at A and went all the way down. We only have policies that go through K. So we're almost there going through a complete review of every single one. So there has been a lot. Prior to a couple of years ago, you'd only on occasion see policy requests and changes, but it's been a really busy few years, and there's a little light at the end of the tunnel, but we're continuing to do. So the 3 coming to you today are, as you can see, the first one is a little language added, again, based on what is currently on MASC's
The bold is
policy.
the add.
Is yes, the bold is added. So if it's,
Okay.
what's not there, what's not bolded is our current policy as it is. but the suggestions of MASC, which make perfect sense to all of us, are to add in and to put a little more strength to this thing in a world, unfortunately, of hazing and cyberbullying. And one of your cross references down the bottom is your acceptable electronic network use, because it is also certainly a cyberbullying issue. So our recommendation is that we amend your existing policy to add those bolded items. And then the other two are just, as we talked a little bit earlier, things that are either Mass General Law or in your handbook. In these cases, Mass General Law, and just aren't needed to be policies. Yours, admissions of, to courses of study never needed to be put on your elementary books, because that's not as relevant as the secondary.
Okay, great. Thank you for the context. So I would like to make the motion to approve upon first reading the amendment of policy JICFA and the rescinding of policies JFB1 and JFB2. Second. Any discussion on those three policies?
Just a comment on JICFA. We're adding language that students are required to report this to the police. And it's just a little bit concerning to me that we're saying elementary age students are required to go to the police. That's not something they would do on their own.
You know, as it references the laws there, and again, I'd be happy with the young ones to put something like students with parental support or students with / parent guardians, but we're really, you know, wanting to make sure the law says if kids are aware of a hazing situation, they're supposed to, yes, obviously, what we can do for punishment for not reporting is very different than an adult, but I'm open to some kind of editing slightly there.
Well, I don't know that a kindergartner would necessarily recognize something.
Exactly. So you're not going to hold
So
someone accountable
you
for.
can't really
Correct.
account them for
Correct.
that.
Exactly. If they're not aware it's hazing,
Right, that's
you
exactly.
can't hold them accountable for
Right.
that, of course. And that's really what happens with the very youngest ones.
Can you explain the difference between hazing and bullying?
There's a fine line. Hazing often has some kind of, like the initiation type things. So if you look into the hazing definition, what's out there are more initiation connected hazing than
You're forcing someone to do something for something in return, right?
Correct.
Acceptance
Yeah.
into a something.
And this would be reported because it happened during the school day? Or outside of school? Or
Yeah,
outside
like
of school?
online or.
Could you look at?
Like it's the
You know, like those TikTok challenges that
Mhm.
that are going around,
Yeah.
that we had to deal with
Yeah.
this past year, like those
You bet.
kind of things.
There is a lot of it going, especially, you know, and the very short, kindergarten 1, you're like, you can't even imagine. 5 and 6, you sure can.
I think it's my opinion that it should be, you know, as the law states, and we should keep the wording. I feel like kindergartner, if they don't know, or first grader, you
Yeah.
know, if a student doesn't know
Of
that it's
course.
hazing, you can't be held accountable. And I feel like our administration and the police department
Absolutely.
have a pretty good judgment
Legal
on that.
counsel for sure.
Because that's been sort of a lot of the impetus of going through a lot of these policies is keeping them clean and in line with what the language of the law is. This has been vetted through the district's, our attorney.
Yeah,
attorney for
ours
our
as well as
district.
MASC.
So I think, you know, keeping it straightforward. I mean, we do have an SRO in the building, who's representative of the police department.
I was
So
going to
we
say,
do
you
have
beat me to the punch,
access.
you're blessed to have that
Right.
as a wonderful resource when issues come up. Yeah,
Makes it easy.
yeah.
Any other discussion? Again, this is first reading,
Yeah.
and so for our new members, this is, we will go back and these will come up again next month. If there's additional discussions or things we thought of, we can think of tonight, we can talk about them. This doesn't mark it in stone, it's just the beginning. So, any other discussion on these three policies? Anybody? No? All right, then let's go to a vote. All in favor of approving upon first reading the amendment of JICFA, and then the rescinding of JFE1 and JFE2.
That's all I have, unless there is other new business.
Anyone else have any new business they'd like to bring up?
Trust in the way that if I go out there and somebody feels the need.
Or iced, or is that what else
I
you're
got
doing?
iced last year. Hey, I did sumo wrestling.
You don't
know me well enough to know how far outside of my comfort zone that was. Oh, well, you won't, because I think I've done a
I'm
good
sure I
job
asked
in
3
deleting
times
everything.
for pictures.
So, I feel like I've done my.
online.
Have done my.
It is, well, I avoid social media like the plague, so I missed it.
Right?
I need to
And
go look at
Catherine
that.
was not feeling well today. And so it was just one of those wonderful events that you just did for the children.
Exactly. That's what it's all about, exactly.
Ice bucket, I think I can skip that this year.
Well,
I really
maybe
like
you're off.
No, you'll be the videographer out there. That's right.
No, I'm gonna go make them all go to bed. That's what my job is.
All right, well, if there's no other discussion and no one wants to go get slimed for the adjournment, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. We can
Thank
all
you
get-
much.
I'll go have our margaritas now.
There you go, that's right.
You're
yeah.
off. It's a good one.